Hello everybody, this is the Adafruit CircuitPython Weekly for August 13th, 2018. I'm Scott and I'm sponsored by Adafruit to work on CircuitPython full-time. CircuitPython is an easy to use port of the Python language to microcontrollers, which are little tiny inexpensive computers. And our goal is to make it easy for people to learn how to program with these small electronics. We hold this meeting every week. It's a chance for us as a community to get together and talk about what we're working on and what's going on. It happens at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern time on Mondays typically, unless it's a U.S. holiday, and then we may change the date and time of it. It is run on our Discord server, which is open to anyone. If you want to join, you can go to adafru.it/discord, and that will pop you into our Discord channel. You'll find people in there in the text channel all week, and then in the voice channel during the week itself. So if you want to join the voice meeting, you got to do the particular time. This meeting is in 4 parts. We start off with a state of CircuitPython, which is a super brief overview of kind of the health of the project based on a statistics lens. After that, we'll do hug reports, which is a chance for everybody to say thank you to other folks for the work that they've been doing in the community. We run that as a round robin, where I will start and to give an example, and then I'll cover people who weren't unable to make it. And then we'll go down the list of the people in the voice chat room. After we do that, we'll do another round robin for status updates, which is what you've been working on in the last week and what you plan on doing in the coming week. It's useful to keep everybody on the same page and also give tips and tricks across people. So like, oh, I'm trying to do this, and somebody else may have a tip or trick on how to get that done more efficiently. And then lastly, we have a section we've called In the Weeds, or discussion, which is a chance to just have longer form discussions about any topics that came up when we were trying to do those shorter form stuff earlier on. So that's the structure. These there are notes. So if you're here live, there's a Google Doc that you can join to help edit the notes. Although Katney's been graciously helping me with those. I'll take time codes so that if you want, or if you're listening to this later, check out the notes. You can skip around if you'd like, and get an idea of what we covered. Those go on the Adafruit YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Adafruit. And with that, let's jump into the state of CircuitPython. So sorry if I pause. I'm either taking time codes or somebody's pinging me on chat, which was just happening. But yeah, so state of CircuitPython, I'll take a time code. This is a kind of statistics view overview of the health of the project, and these statistics not only include the core Adafruit CircuitPython repo, but they also include libraries and the newsletter. So keep that in mind. And it's just a script that pulls these. I ran this last night, so they may be slightly out of date. So 77 pull requests merged in the last week, which is, again, an incredible number. But the reason for that is that Brennan and Katney have been doing epic work to get all of our libraries into PyPI, which is the standard Python packaging system. So CircuitPython libraries are becoming more and more available to people using regular C Python on Raspberry Pis. So that accounts for a lot of those pull requests. But we had 9 authors, which is also significant. And I just want to call R. Weiss and R. Lake out as a special thank you for being names I have not seen on this list before. So thank you to those new folks. And then we had 6 reviewers as well, which is more than we have typically. So reviewers are just as important, if not more important, than authors. That's how we scale up in terms of getting code pulled in. So really thank you to those folks. In the end, we have 12 open pull requests. 4 of those are on the core repo, and the other 8 are not. If you're interested in exactly what those 8 are, or what those 12 are, check the notes. They're in the notes. Issues wise, we've had 7 closed issues by 4 people and 18 open by 11 people. Again, the number of people gives us an idea of how many people are being involved, but also we're clearly having more open issues than we're closing, so we should always just keep an eye on that. It's not the end of the world, but we don't want to get to the point where we have 1,000 open issues. That would be bad news. But we only have 141 right now, and again, they're in the notes if people want to take a look and help get those closed. The only real release we have right now is 3.0.1 or 0.0. Sorry. And that reminds me, I need to talk about 3.01 later. So 3.0.0 has been out a few weeks now. It's the first stable release we've done in a while, and it currently has 3,336 total downloads, which is up about 500 from last week. I took a look at that. So that's good news. And again, that is pretty typical where Circuit Playground Express is a big chunk of that at 894. So that's interesting to see how people are downloading it. If you want the full notes, they are in the notes for that. And then I won't cover the driver stuff. If I had to give a 3-sentence summary about where we're at, I guess 3.01 is going to come shortly. There's a few bugs that we fixed. So if anybody wants to help test the 3x branch, please do. If you need a link to what the latest build on that is, let me know. Just wanted to get some people poking at it before I actually call it 3.01. The fixes in there are the import slowdown fix is fixed. There's a fix for NeoPixel timing that we think is good on the M4s, and then there's a fix for the UART stuff that Jeff Epler did. So if you had trouble with UARTs not working quite right, there's a fix for that in the 3x branch as well. So please do that. And then 4.0 is getting close to alpha state, I think, but we still have a long way to go before we have the full CircuitPython API again. So that will come in a couple weeks probably. Okay, that is the state of CircuitPython. We'll move on to Hug reports now. After I take a time code. Hug reports are a chance for everybody to just give a shout out and a thank you to folks for their involvement in the CircuitPython community in whatever way, shape, or form that we think is super valuable. It's important for a couple reasons. One, you should always take time to thank people for the work that they've done. And two, it's good to demonstrate to other people what you value so that they know what they can do to be valuable as well. So we'll do this as a round robin. So I will start and I'll read off mine and I'll read off Jerry's, and then we will circle around to Brendan. So just a heads up. Okay, time code again. And I have 5-ish this week. First, I wanted to say thank you to Aaron Averill. Hasn't been in these meetings, but has been super helpful on the forums, responding to people. So thank you, Aaron, for that. I wanted to thank Notro for his hosted CircuitPython code browser. I meant to put a link in my notes, but I did not. So if you are interested in browsing the source code in a better way than is looking through bare files, like being able to click references and jump around between references, Notro has a server for you, and I can dig that up after the meeting, or if somebody saw that go by, they can dig it up during the meeting. Third, I want to say huge thank you again to Kattni and Brendan for all of the incredible PyPI work that they've been doing to get the CircuitPython libraries as the default libraries on the Raspberry Pi. They're working really hard to both test and vet all of those drivers, and then also deprecate the old Python drivers, so that we can focus our Python support in one area, which will be really cool. I wanted to say thank you to rvice for the first time commit to the TSL 2591 driver, which was a fix around detecting when the sensor overflows with a different integration time. So that was really cool. And then lastly, I wanted to say a thank you to Carlos. I forget what their username is, but they heard this meeting after the fact, which was epic, and contacted me about helping with the Spanish translation. So I talked is I I talked a little bit about getting internationalization support in on the show and tell last week, and Carlos has taken it upon themselves to uh, translate all the strings, including all of these random error messages, which is really cool. So if anybody else speaks any other languages and wants to help translate, please let us know. With 4.0, I want to have it so that we'll default to shipping boards with ENUS, but I think that having non-English error messages and control messages is really helpful and much friendlier to non-native English speakers. So if you're interested in that, please let me know. And then for Jerry was unable to make the meeting today and said group hugs. So that is Jerry's hug report. Brennan, how about yourself?
Thanks to Kattni again, both for all of the work that's sort of wrapped up last week on getting stuff onto PyPI, and then this week's guides and documentation that's sort of a natural follow-on for that. There's a bunch of changes that need to be made, and it's a ton of work.
Yeah.
That's me.
Cool. Thank you both. Super helpful, and you've been just breezing through it, which is cool. Brent. I was unable to hear you. All right, Brent, we'll circle back to you. Carter.
Can you hear me at least?
I can.
Okay, just make sure mics are working.
Mm-hmm.
Standard group hug, of course, for everyone. And one to Deshpu Radomir for the cool idea on the TCA I2C multiplexer driver idea. I put up an issue because one wasn't there, and he's got an idea that will make it actually, I think, actually worth writing a driver for, because it's a pretty simple device, but it'd be kind of cool to abstract it in a way that'll make it fun to use.
Cool.
So that was a cool idea. I like it.
Awesome. All right, Dakota.
I just wanted to throw out the idea that sometimes people think, well, I'm not working on the CircuitPython project. Well, if you're using it and you're sharing what you're using it for, you're inspiring other people to use it, you're working on the project. You're helping move it forward, even if you're not writing code. So I want to send out a group hug to those people, because they're the ones that keep me motivated to learn more so that I can work on it. So that's where my community hug is going on.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Sharing what they're working on.
Yeah, that's totally true. Thank you for reiterating that. All right, Deshipu.
Okay, so thank you to Scott for getting me on the right path with the timers on the last meeting. That really helped, and I have it all working. So thanks
cool.
For that.
Awesome. You're welcome. All right, Kattni.
So thanks to Brennan for getting all the hardware tested on Raspberry Pi and helping out with all the PyPI stuff. There's always bugs. There's always things we run into, weird issues. And it's been super helpful to have someone else working on it and not just be trying to slog through it alone. I want to say thanks to Lady Ada. She got a bunch of hardware tested this weekend so that I could keep going on guides. I want to say thanks to Summersoft, who's working on getting more patching capabilities into AdaBot. That's super helpful. We ran into issues when doing the PyPI stuff, and these patches will help. And to Scott for playing backup support through all the PyPI stuff. Sometimes when we were running into issues on individual libraries with Sphinx and so on, it's been, thank you for, filling in when it's questions that you're able to answer. So that's my thing.
Cool. Thank you, Kenny. Mike.
Yeah, the team of Kattni and Brennan have been like, I don't know, it's just a blur of code, and I don't know. Again, in a good way, my my email just shows all this work coming through on GitHub, so it's really cool. But also noticed too that Lady Ada put in some sweat and tears working on some issues too this weekend. So it's really looking good as far as things shaping up. The new hat coming out it's all going to be really good stuff. Stuff that the Raspberry Pi just quite hasn't had. So it all requires a lot of work on people's part, like Kattni and Brennan, to get pieces that work with other pieces working, so people aren't frustrated that, oh, I've got this great new thing, and oh, I want to add this block to it, which just happens to be a temperature humidity sensor, and oh, that's the one that doesn't work. Sorry. It's this atmosphere of it all just works. Kind of the Apple thing.
Right.
The stuff that you all on the CircuitPython team, that's where the user experience comes from. And yeah, that kind of ties into, I did see some new people working on noting issues too, and that's wonderful. The Adafruit team isn't in a vacuum. Everybody's like testing this out, or saying that my emphasis is kind of here, and that's like, yeah, we want to do that too. Let's work together, or whatever it is. That just gets us further along the track for us and for them, and it's all good. So cool. I want to kind of group hug those guys. So thanks again, everybody, for the hard work, and you're going to see a lot of the benefits be coming up very soon now.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. You captured it really well.
I try. I'm a very poor speaker. It just kind of comes out in one big...
Well, it's all good stuff you're saying.
Thank you.
All right. STW is lurking today, so we'll go to Summersoft, and then we'll go to Brent. Summersoft is usually typing only, so I'll read it off. Just a group hug this week, says Summersoft. All right. Nothing wrong with just a group hug. All right. Brent.
All right. Take two. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yay. Okay. Group hug to everybody, and especially a larger hug to Kattni and Brennan for their work on getting everything on PyPy. I'm actually doing a guide right now that involves Arduino and CircuitPython, and being able to do both is really awesome and wouldn't be possible. I just went to look for some libraries, and it's already on PyPy, and they work, which is fantastic. So good work.
Awesome. Thanks, Brent. Okay, that's Hug Reports. Thank you, everybody, for going over that. Let's move on to status updates. Status updates are a chance for us to talk about what we've been working on. As Dakota awesomely pointed out, that includes if you're working on a project with CircuitPython, or you just read the intro guide, like we want to hear about what your experience has been. Or if you're a low-level C developer on CircuitPython like myself, we'll talk about that as well. We want everybody to be aware of all the different facets of what's going on in CircuitPython, so it's all super valuable. Okay, I'll start, and I'm doing it off the cuff. Sometimes I have notes, but today I was a slacker, or last night I was a slacker. So all of the international stuff, internationalization stuff is checked in. That was one of the major things I was doing before I left, and then I got I revived my my test gaming code. I had been working on it in like June, I think. So it's two months old. So I rebased it on 4.0 and got it working. One interesting thing to note was that at the time I was working on that, I noted that loading all of the Python code took 17 seconds, which was just like insane. But since somebody else found that import bug and we fixed it, it only took 1.2 seconds. So that's really cool. It loads a lot faster, which is great. So I'm a lot less worried about that. The other thing is I mentioned that I was working on porting the PQ8 version of Celeste over, and I wanted to report that I actually heard from the Celeste people now, and I can actually open source it. They were okay with that. So if you do github.com/tannewt/celeste.py, you can take a look at that early code, the porting code, if you're curious. So somewhat in that vein, my plan going forward into this week is to work on graphics. So really building on the awesome work that Deshipu did with the stage stuff. I'm going to be adding some more shape rendering and things like that to it. So that's for an upcoming product that I think you folks will hear about a little bit later this week. So I just got my demo one, and so I'll be heads down on graphics this week, building out the stage stuff some more, and the newsletter today, of course. Okay, that's me, and then I have Jerry's status update that I'll read off here. So Jerry said, should be back this weekend, and we'll pick up some testing, especially some of the Blinka modules. I did a quick test of the RFM9X and had to make a minor change to the simple test.py to convert a string to a byte string for the send test. That is new with the latest Blinka update, but I have not had time to dig into it. Should be able to follow up on that this weekend. So that's what Jerry said. He's on vacation, I think, but still getting back to us. Speaking of that, I should just mention Dan's not here because he's also on vacation. So don't be worried about that. He'll be back next week. Okay, and then let's do the round robin, starting with Brennan.
Okay, so on Friday, I got a box from Adafruit with like 50 or 60 odd pieces of hardware in it. We have kind of a list of priorities from Lady Ada, and I'm going through it. Kattni's coming up with a fritzing diagram, and then I'm verifying that on the Raspberry Pi, running the code and everything, filing bugs if there are bugs, otherwise sort of signing off on the changes that'll be made on guides, and Kattni will probably talk more about that.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Brennan. Brent?
Yeah, I've been, as of last Friday, I finished up all the CircuitPython ports for Adafruit IO basics guides. So if you have a Raspberry Pi, now all of the Adafruit IO guides work with CircuitPython natively, which is really great. And this week, I'm building an environmental logger that uses the BME280, the SGP30, and the VEML 6070, and it does like temperature, humidity, pressure, gas, ultraviolet, all over I2C, and it reports all of it to Adafruit IO, and I'm going to do an Arduino version and a CircuitPython version of that.
Awesome.
Oh, and throw it in a weatherproof housing, because it's been rainy here.
We got one day of rain, and that's it here. I was thinking, though, that I wanted to make a temperature sensor. I was going to do that, but I've got distracted.
Yeah, this is like everything.
Everything sensor. That's pretty awesome. Cool. Post pictures when you got it, or post links to that maybe next week when you have it done. Okay, thanks, Brent. Carter.
Nothing super new other than ordering up some of that TCA hardware that I was talking about, and that got here on Friday. I didn't really have time to play with it until the weekend hit, but now I'll probably start playing with that and seeing if I can make a first pass at a CircuitPython driver for it.
Cool.
And then also forgot to thank you for jumping in on the discussion on that issue, also for helping refine how that driver should come about.
Yeah, no worries. And for folks that don't know, that is an I2C multiplexer, right?
Correct. That does one simple thing. That's kind of why there hasn't been a driver yet, because there's really not much to do. But that's why Deshipu's idea was really cool, because it'll make it kind of worth actually writing a driver for. Otherwise, you just be sending out 2 I2C commands and calling it good.
Right, right. So you only have to construct the object and not worry about it after that.
Right, in terms of the driver. But my original idea was it would just be a driver where you would just create the object and basically call something like switch channel on the object, as opposed to this abstraction of burying that and making it kind of a behind the scene thing. So stuff just works magically, which will be kind of neat.
Yeah, that is very cool. I'm excited about that. I think I'm still learning to appreciate how powerful the just pass something in that acts this way sort of composition works. It's kind of a design pattern in object-oriented programming. Dependency injection. That's right. That's the right term. It's the idea that like you can make an object that acts like a digital in-out and then pass it to something that wants a digital in-out, and it just works. Even if it might be going through like an I2C multiplexer or whatever, which is super cool. And the I2C multiplexer stuff is exactly that as well. Okay, Dakota?
Pretty much still learning and lost in the weeds, so not much to report.
Are you enjoying your time in the weeds?
Oh, always. That's the problem.
That's not a problem at all, as long as you're having fun. Cool, thank you. Deshipu.
So I got the code for drawing LED matrices directly with GPIO pins from the MCU to work. Thanks to your suggestion. I still have some questions I still need to clean it up basically, and have some questions about how to organize it cleanly. But so I have it working for a regular LED matrix, and right now I'm finishing it with a curly plexed LED matrix. Here's a photo of that. And yeah, so if that works, then I can make basically an educational device that lets you, write simple games like Snake or something. That would cost like a couple of dollars a piece, so that you can make workshops with that for cheap without having to look for sponsors and so on.
Right.
That's the goal.
Awesome. Getting low cost.
Yeah, so I suppose I will create some issues in the backtracker, like asking for. So I have some ideas about how to make this whole process of doing something in the background easier for people to implement.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to hear about that. Yeah, we're doing it more and more, so having better ways to do it is really good. Cool. Thank you, Deshipu. Katney.
Hi. Okay, so I'm pretty much living on PyP Island. All the libraries except for one are in PyPI now. Featherwing is not. It's not actually an issue with it working with PyPI. It's an issue with the library structure. If you implement the PyPI updates, the library structure causes problems with Sphinx because you have to auto mock the module itself, and then it refuses to populate API.rst with the submodules, and then Sphinx says there's nothing in this file I can't render, or can't build. So I went in circles with that like for hours over the course of a few days and like reverted everything. So that one waits.
Okay.
we're we're testing all the hardware. Brennan's on that. Lamore did some of it this weekend. And then we're updating all of the CircuitPython guides to include Python usage. In some cases, actually adding the whole page, because there's not even CircuitPython info in the guides for some of these sensors. So we're working towards having all the guides for the base sensor, so not CircuitPython specific guides. We want you to go to the guide for the sensor that has all the pinouts and all the information for it, and then it has CircuitPython info right there. So far we have 18 out of 87 updated. We've been doing the easy ones first, so we've got a much longer haul coming up. So I've added all the updated guides to the newsletter, or that is the plan to continue to do.
Okay.
I finished more over the weekend, so I want to take a few minutes sometime today before that goes out and put those in there so that we can just be up to date. We're blogging every updated guide as well in batches of 5. There's one post so far that went out Friday. The plan is to do one post every couple days. So like I'm separating them out so that we kind of know what's been blogged and what hasn't. That goes on the master spreadsheet.
Right.
I filed an issue for libraries that have doc issues. It's linked there and also in the notes.
Right.
I ran into a couple that haven't built in 6 months because they're not set up in GitHub properly.
Right.
And I found a couple that just had weird issues that may be fine, but were not like the others.
Okay.
So I just started an issue for it. They all passed the last time they built, so it's gone under the radar because we didn't check all the passing builds.
Right.
And then there's on the spreadsheet, I have a list of all the libraries that required Pylint Disable to be added to them for them to build. And a lot of them, it needs to be refactored out. It's just I didn't have time to test them, so I didn't want to change
Right.
functional code until it had a chance to be tested. So I will file an issue. It's not been filed yet, but I will file an issue eventually that has all those in there. And it's a lot of things like one of them we figured out that updating Pylint RC, which we need to do anyway, fixes it, but another one's like no else return. Like you don't want to have an else after an if and with a return statement.
Right.
It's simple stuff that needs to be fixed, but it should be tested. And not just fixed. So I made a note of most of the ones that I did that to. I didn't start making those notes until I was probably 20 into it though. So alphabetically, the first 20 may have things that we should refactor.
Okay.
But I need to file an issue for that. And I think that's it.
Sounds like a lot.
It is a ton. Oh, right. And I'm going to be working on getting the Python. We're all going to be working on getting the Python libraries archived, the GitHub versions of them. However, there were 6 that were already archived, but the updated READMEs were not pushed to PyPI. So that's something else I'll be doing, is going back and getting all of those, the ones that we already archived, figuring out how to get the updated README pushed to PyPI so that people know that it's been, deprecated.
Right.
So that's the last thing.
Yeah, last but important step.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you again, both to you and Brennan, for all that work. It's really helpful because a lot of those libraries in reality are not being maintained. So like actually marking them archived is better.
The first one I found had a PR open from 2014. The fact that we're not maintaining these is not going to come as a surprise to anyone. However, we need to make it obvious. And the thing is, it'll stop people from opening PRs and issues. So that will be super handy.
Yeah. Yeah. Really good step. Should actually reduce our burden a lot, which will be maintenance burden a lot, which will be good. Cool. Keep it up.
Yep.
Mike.
Late hug report to Brent. He's wrapping up his his work, and yeah, I've got to look over his Adafruit IO stuff, and it's really good. So we can start using CircuitPython a lot more with Adafruit IO, which is exciting. I've been working on 3 things that will be coming out. How to use Circuit Playground Express external serial communications. So serial communications that are off, not using the built-in USB connection. So I've got a guide for that hopefully this week. I've also got another guide for how to log data. How to use CircuitPython and make code when it's fixed. Log sensor data directly into a spreadsheet. So you have to be a little careful because you're using HID to mimic a keyboard. So you make sure your cursor is on the exact square in the spreadsheet you want the data to start logging in, and then turn it loose and it will just pop right into the spreadsheet without having to do, there are ways. My upcoming book will have a way in which you write to the SD card in CSV format, and then you can import that to any spreadsheet you want. But there are some things, especially even with I think we listed Android phones, where you can just open up a Google Sheets and then have it logged directly to the Google Sheet. And that's really good for people who do like remote servicing and stuff, where you don't want to lug in a backpack full of equipment. You just want to kind of jack in and get some info and take off again. So that probably won't be released until Microsoft fixes does some pull requests for some bugs. The key mappings for make code for like the cursor keys and stuff was incorrect, so it would do weird things. I have a guide. It's kind of on the back burner, but it's basically done. It's called Make It Switch: How to Use External Switches. Some people have been trying to use external switches, and they're not sure about pull-ups and pull-downs and that kind of stuff. And hopefully in the next week or two, we'll have enough time to review through that and get that on board, so newer people don't have to kind of guess, how do I hook it up? What call do I do? And pull up, pull down, what does that mean? And I don't know. So. Other than that, the newsletter will be out tomorrow, so we'll have some good stuff in there.
Yes, we will.
And that's it for me.
Cool. Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
All right.
And I'm going to have to bug out probably at this point, so I'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for making it.
Later, Mike.
All right. STW is lurking, so we'll do Summersoft. All right, Summersoft says, for AdaBot patching, finished adding the ability to pass command line arguments to the git calls, then discovered that only certain git apply flags can be used with git am, so I added the option to force the use of git apply plus git commit -a-m pass message from patch file to allow all flags. The main difference between git am and git apply is that am does a commit automatically and apply doesn't. But it turns out that using 0 lines of context for a Travis.yaml patch results in duplicated lines for the ones that are already updated. See below. We'll work one more approach for the patch file, one line of context, but may just have to clean up after. I'm also going to work on the Pylint RC patch that Kattni brought up, and while typing this, I figure I can add some test runability, hashtag feature creep. No worries. Yeah, I think this is a great example of something that's like super worth it, but you know, there's some bugs around it, and don't let those deter you. Like having this duplicate line bug is not the end of the world, and having the ability to patch is like amazing. So it's totally worth it. And Summersoft, thank you for taking that on. All right, that is the status updates. So thank you everybody for that. Lastly, we have a, let me take a time code, in the weeds section, which is a chance for us to talk about any larger topics that may have come up earlier. If anybody has topics they want to talk about, let's like mention them in the text chat or in the notes, and then I'll go through them. There have been some like super awkward silences where I like wait for people to chime in, and so I think by doing it kind of off, like out of the voice chat at the same time as doing the other stuff would be good. So I wanted to, okay, go ahead, Kathy.
So in updating all the libraries for PyPI, we found that it didn't used to evaluate certain things in the code, and now it does, but it evaluates them against the Adafruit Blinka library, which means when it evaluates the code and you have in there for board.d5
Right.
for your your feather or whatever, it fails because it doesn't find that. And we found that there is a thing in the PyLint-RC file that allows you to ignore certain modules, which essentially just resets it back to exactly what it's been doing the whole time if we put in ignore board.
Right.
So that's the update that we want to do globally. It's been done to about 4 or 5 of the libraries, because as I came on them and they failed in that way, I just updated PyLint-RC. But that's the global update that we want to do, so that moving forward we don't have to do PyLint disables in a bunch of files for no reason.
Right.
Because we weren't evaluating that before anyway. So we're not losing anything by ignoring it. So I just wanted to explain real quick what Summersoft was referring to.
Yep. Ignore the attribute checks. Okay. I would just want to take a brief second to reiterate testing would be awesome. So if anybody has some projects they're using 3.0 with and they want to try what will be 3.01, please let me know. I just want, since Jerry's gone, I want somebody to take a look at it for me. So could use help with that. Yeah, Deshibu, updating microgame. I've got some code there, so we should coordinate, or I should send it to you. All right. Anything else? I didn't see anything else come up, but Brennan is typing. Cool. All right, Brennan's going to test 301 for us. And with that, let's wrap up. Let me take a time code. So this is the Adafruit CircuitPython Weekly for August 13th. Thank you for everybody who joined and everybody who's listened to this after the fact. For those of you who are listening to this maybe after the fact on YouTube, if you want to join live, it happens Mondays at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern on our Discord chat. If you're not on there, you should join. It's super fun. We're text chatting all week about Adafruit stuff, including CircuitPython. To join that, you can go to adafru.it/Discord. It's our short link for it. So that will drop you into the Adafruit Discord. Reach out to any of us on the CircuitPython channel. If you are listening to this audio only, you probably know, but this is on YouTube, so we actually record the text chat as well. so you can follow along with what's happening in the Discord chat at the same time as the meeting. The recording, along with notes with time codes, goes up same day. It is put into the Python for Microcontrollers newsletter, which is you can sign up for at adafruitdaily.com. That goes out once a week and has a whole bunch of links about MicroPython and Python and CircuitPython, including the recording of this meeting. And then the meeting is also posted just straight to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Adafruit. There's a playlist there that you can use to go back in time and listen to all of the old ones as well. So check it out. Thank you for listening all the way through. And until next week, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.